For years, one nation has been feared by many in the Middle East: Iran. Understandably so. It's capable of threatening global oil supplies, influencing wars across the region, and challenging some of the richest states on Earth. But on February 28th, everything has changed. The United States and Israel launched coordinated strikes across Iran, and in a single decisive moment, the country's most powerful figure was removed. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Khomeini, was decapitated. This move shocked the whole world. For many, that finally means a more peaceful and stable Middle East. Across the embattled nation, the reactions were strikingly divided. Thousands gathered and deeply wept for the loss of their recognized leader. But on the other side, a very different scene appeared. Videos began surfacing of Iranians out in the streets, dancing and celebrating with pure joy. But beyond those celebrating in the streets, there are also outsiders who would be cheering just as much. The neighboring Arab countries who are anticipating the moment when Iran would finally give in. But why? Before we answer this question, we must first understand why Iran has long been locked in tension with the Arab world. The rivalry between Iran and many Arab countries is not simple. It stretches across decades of political competition, ideological conflict, and deep regional mistrust. At its core, this divide begins with something fundamental: religion. For us outsiders, this may seem weird. After all, most of these nations share the same faith. They are overwhelmingly Muslim-majority countries. Shouldn't that unite them? But the reality is more complicated. The divide begins with a fundamental difference within Islam itself. Since the 16th century, Iran has been the center of Shia Islam. This is the branch that represents a minority in the broader Muslim world. Today, around 90 to 95% of Iranians follow Shia Islam, specifically the Twelver tradition. But across the wider Arab world, the reality is strikingly different. Most of these nations are dominated by Sunni populations. From Saudi Arabia and Egypt to Jordan and the wealthy Gulf states, Sunni Islam stands as the prevailing religious force. Yet within several of these countries live significant Shia populations. In Saudi Arabia, many Shia communities are concentrated in the oil-rich eastern province. This is where the rivalry takes on a deeper meaning. For Saudi Arabia, the conflict with Iran is not just about strategy or power. It is about who truly leads the region. Riyadh sees itself as the natural center of the Sunni Arab world, the guardian of Islam's holiest cities. Across the Gulf, Iran casts itself as a revolutionary power. It's a nation determined to challenge Western influence and overturn the region's traditional balance of power. This wasn't the case decades ago. Under Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, Iran was aligned with the West. Saudi Arabia and Iran were not close allies, but they existed within the same regional order. It was in 1979 that this balance was shattered. A wave of revolution swept through Iran, toppling the Shah and ending centuries of monarchy. In its place rose a completely new system, the Islamic Republic, led by Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini. What happened next was something the world hadn't expected. The nation experienced a seismic shift in its ideology. Supreme Leader Khomeini rejected monarchy outright and openly challenged the legitimacy of kings and emirs across the Gulf. He claimed to represent a new Islamic order. This became a problem for the Gulf states because this revolution didn't stop at Iran's borders. Khomeini envisioned inspiring movements across the Muslim world, especially among Shia communities living under Sunni rule. Iran began speaking directly to these communities, quietly challenging the authority of their governments. Suddenly, the existential threat to monarchs brought by this new regime became too real. Then, the tension began. It became a struggle for influence, ideology, and survival. Iran chose a very different path in confronting its rivals. Rather than relying solely on conventional warfare, it expanded its influence through a web of allies, militias, and ideological movements. Over time, this network evolved into a powerful instrument of power projection. By cultivating ties with armed groups across multiple countries, Iran discovered a way to extend its influence far beyond its own borders. From Hezbollah in Lebanon to the Houthis in Yemen, and several others across the region, Iran gradually expanded its reach through these proxy forces. In many ways, the strategy proved effective. Without carrying the full burden of war itself, Iran could still shape conflicts from a distance. This strategy has turned several parts of the Middle East into quiet battlefields between Iran and its Arab rivals. For many Arab governments, this strategy is deeply unnerving. The presence of these proxies directly threatens the fragile order the Arab states depend on. For the wealthy Arab nations, stability is the foundation of their economic strength. Their prosperity relies on uninterrupted oil exports, stable financial markets, the confidence of foreign investors, and the secure flow of ships through vital global trade routes. This stability is more critical due to the vulnerabilities built into their own infrastructure. Many of their major cities sit along exposed coastlines, placing critical facilities within reach of regional conflict. Even something as essential as water is fragile. Much of their drinking supply comes from massive desalination plants. These facilities may struggle to operate if a prolonged crisis were to erupt. And this is exactly why Iran makes the Gulf states uneasy. Just across the region is a country that has shown it can disrupt the very stability their prosperity depends on. And there's another reason this makes many countries in the region uneasy. Iran holds a strategic advantage that no one can easily change: its geography. And Tehran has made it clear more than once that if a major conflict erupts, that geography could quickly become a weapon. We're talking about the Strait of Hormuz, one of the most critical choke points on the planet. At its narrowest point, the passage is only about 2 miles wide. Yet through this thin corridor flows nearly 1/5 of the world's oil, along with a massive share of global liquefied natural gas. Much of it comes from Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, and Iraq. In other words, the economic lifeline of the Arab states and much of the world must pass through this narrow gate, and Iran stands right beside it. The nation took a different strategy to take advantage of its geography. To choke one of the world's most important arteries of global trade, Iran has developed an unconventional strategy: fast attack boats moving in swarms, sea mines scattered across narrow waters, and low-cost asymmetric weapons deployed near the coast. During the recent conflict with the United States and Israel, Iran demonstrated the effectiveness of this strategy. Traffic through the Strait of Hormuz slowed sharply. Even Beijing, one of Iran's few remaining major partners, found it difficult to move shipments through the passage. Notably, Iran didn't need to enforce a full naval blockade. A few low-cost drone strikes near the strait were enough to send a powerful signal. As a result, many countries are now on edge. They fear the significant shock it could send through the global energy market. If the situation escalates further, prices could surge far beyond the spikes the world has seen before. Now, let's pause for a moment and think that everything will go as the US and Israel has planned. Iran will be significantly weakened and a regime change would happen. If that scenario were to happen, it is the Gulf Arab states that might quietly celebrate the outcome. In the short term, such a shift could dramatically reshape the balance of power in the region. Wealthy Gulf nations have already spent years investing in military modernization, global finance, and regional diplomacy. With Iran weakened, these states could emerge as the undisputed political and economic power centers of the Middle East. Their influence could expand in several ways. Diplomatically, they could play a larger role in mediating regional conflicts and shaping political outcomes in neighboring countries. But the potential benefits go beyond influence alone. If Iran were significantly weakened, one of the region's most dangerous pressure points could ease. Shipping routes that carry a large portion of the world's oil might operate with greater security. Energy infrastructure could face fewer risks of sudden disruption. For these wealthy Gulf economies, stability has always been the goal. With Iran's downfall, this dream would finally be achieved. But what are your thoughts about this? We hope you like our story. As always, see you in the next one.